Hello guys, this is What If Naruto X Tayuya. I hope you all enjoy. A slightly older Naruto changes the fates of many in the ninja world. Tayuya's survival ensures that someone will find her, and that she'll be around to keep him in check. As the cycle of the ages shifts, can they survive its brutal tests? When you grasp at straws, can you find the needle in the hay? There's only one way to find out. Chapter 1. Broken Influence. Oh, fuck, my head. Tayuya came to, having been knocked unconscious earlier. Her initial grogginess wore off in seconds, and then pain set in. Fuck, my legs. She was at an angle, propped up by some of the trees in this decapitated forest, and her legs felt like they were on fire for good reason. Another tree, thicker than she was tall, had landed across her thighs, and she was trapped. If that fucking fattest robo was here, hell, if any of the others were here, they'd be able to get me out. Fuck. We probably succeeded, so Orochimaru would let me off the hook maybe. She griped to herself. While she didn't enjoy that, maybe it was the best hope that she had to go on. She was one of his elite guards, and that was worth something, though their status as elite didn't mean much when Orochimaru's continued experiments produced stronger mutations. Given how young those subjects were, it was likely that the Sound Four would outlive their usefulness. Unfortunately for Orochimaru, though, he hadn't been able to ensure that those mutated children were able to stay sane. For better or worse, with their basic curse seals, she and the others were the most capable soldiers on Orochimaru's side. Kabuto was the only exception to that rule. Thinking of that man sent shivers down her spine. He was a brilliant medic, but a little too brilliant. Kabuto was Orochimaru's right-hand man and apprentice. Kamimuro before his illness, and Sasuke now, they were just spare bodies to him, vessels that he could use to attain his goals. He hadn't deigned to share those goals with Tayuya, or any of the other members of the Sound Four. Not that she was complaining, that would have been another piece of information that a captor could torture out of her. Of course, at this point, capture was looking like her best option. Orochimaru was known for tying up loose ends in a very painful way, and Konoha had comfortable prisons as far as prisons went. Better than Orochimaru's stone walls and steel bars, no doubt. Supposedly, they were like staying in a shitty one-star motel, minus the roaches. Then again, the man who told her that wasn't exactly the most mentally put together in the world. Well, the others are probably dead. Even Kamimuro's running on borrowed time. On the one hand, the pain in her legs was excruciating. On the other hand, the fact that she could still feel them meant that they were still repairable. Time was working against her, and she knew that. An explosion in the distance caught her attention, and as a blur passed by her right side, she shouted for help. What have we here? A giant white-haired man appeared in her vision. He had to be at least 6 feet tall, and looked like he could withstand a mountain collapsing on him. You're working for my old teammate, huh? Well, it'd leave a really bad taste in my mouth to just leave you here to die. Why don't you come with me? I know someone who'll be able to fix those legs of yours. Then, you and I can have a nice, long talk. He placed one hand toward the bottom of the log, casually flipping it to stand on one end. How the fuck did you? Anything is possible when you're the great Jiraiya. He laughed. Now, will you come with me or not? I won't force you, but I know how Orochimaru operates. I've had enough spies die to learn what happens when someone is in your position. The decision didn't take long. I'm coming, she huffed, holding out an arm for the Sannin to grab. Excellent. He picked her up, carrying her on his back, and resumed traveling. Now, to go pick up that bumbling student of mine and his wayward friend if we can. Lightning had burned Naruto's jacket to a crisp, blood running down his chest from a hole on either side. Shrugging off the destroyed vestment that Konoha's populace had come to know as the infamous Orange Nightmare, his upper body was on display for the world to see. That's a lot of scars, Naruto. Were those from Haku? Sasuke, his best friend and current enemy, momentarily stopped their fight in wonder. What the hell had happened to Naruto? His torso was riddled with jagged lines, deep gouges, and more than a few imprints that looked like acid or burn scars. Before Sasuke's eyes, the 2 craters he put in Naruto's chest stopped bleeding and began to heal over. No, these were from the villagers. They're old, they're faded, but they're from before I came to the academy. Normally, I put a physical henge on when I'm going to show skin to the world, makes it impossible to feel them. Hadn't thought I'd be doing it today, though, and I'd rather save the chakra. They did that to you. And you never fought back. What the hell is wrong with you? They probably would have killed me, if they thought it could be done, but I heal a little too fast for them to keep up, and I'll be honest, I deserved it. My legs are a lot worse off, because there's no vital organs. So wait, you were subject to mob judgment, you got scarred beyond your ability to heal yourself, and you're trying to convince me to come back to Konoha. Well, when you put it like that, it does make you sound kind of silly. Might just be the 2 years I have on you, though. I didn't get held back twice to get outsmarted by someone younger than me. Except Shikamaru, that dude's got like 16 eggs in his dozen. Fucking bizarre. At least I'm honest about being short 1 or 2. Yeah, Mr. Super Duper Senior. You're the only one that's ever happened to, you know that. That makes me feel bad, Sasuke. At least when we were punching each other you weren't insulting me. Come back home with me, please. You know why I can't, Naruto. No amount of pity for you is going to make me. I have to kill my brother, I have to avenge my clan. Killing the person most important to me is how to evolve the Sharingan into its Manjikyu form, and that's you. Touching as that is, you're lying. Itachi is more important to you than I am, or else you wouldn't still be going on this quest for vengeance. If I mattered more, if Sakura or Kakashi mattered more, if anyone in Konoha mattered more, then it would have been enough for you to give up. It would have been enough for you to stay with us. And if I really am that important, if any of us are that important, then you're not the one in control of your actions. That damn seal is. That announcement hit Sasuke like a ton of bricks. For someone who was supposed to be an idiot, stupid enough to have failed to graduate from what amounted to civilian middle school twice, it made an unfortunate amount of sense. Hate and anger were just as much about passion as romance and friendship, which meant either his hate for Itachi outweighed the strength of his brotherhood with Naruto, or Orochimaru's seal was making him do something that he would otherwise never have done. Choose who you care about more, Sasuke. Itachi, or the village. If you turn around and walk away right now, you'll be just like him. If you come back with me, it all gets blown off as a kidnapping. Only Team 7 will know the truth unless Sakura decides to open her mouth. You don't have to become Itachi to beat him. Fine. Sasuke finally said. But in exchange, you're going to help me train to kill him. Whatever you say, pal. Naruto. Sasuke. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said. I see you were successful, Naruto, and you too, Sasuke, for resisting the seal. Kakashi, a newcomer, said. It was Jiraiya, carrying a girl on his back. Are you telling me that you willingly left a cursed seal rampant when it has the ability to manipulate a person's thoughts because you wanted to train Sasuke without my interference? His tone was dark. I won't deny that I'm glad it gave me the freedom to teach Naruto, but that's still a very severe lapse in judgment. I didn't know the full extent of its power over Sasuke. It was an honest mistake, Jiraiya. You know me better than to insinuate I would sabotage the growth of my student. She's a member of the Sound 4. Naruto pointed to the girl on Jiraiya's back, interrupting the older ninja. She fought Shikamaru. Her name is Kitaman no Tayuya. Sasuke added. One of Orochimaru's personal guards. I'm guessing the other 3 are dead. Yeah. Not in ways I want to describe, either. Jiraiya confirmed. Now we should get out of here, and I'm going to take a look at those seals when we get back to Konoha. Yours and hers. There was no room for argument, and the 4 men took off running. All of them dead, and no sign of Sasuke. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. Unfortunately, it seems that Naruto was able to overpower the seal by leveraging his friendship with Sasuke. I see. Well, then failure is failure, I suppose, but more is learned from failure than success. Orochimaru grimaced, despite those hopeful words. In the main chamber of his torchlit base, he sat upon the basilisk throne and thought. The Byahebi's hands were bridged in front of him, elbows resting on the arms of his chair. Now I know that I need to modify the seals further in the future. Disobedience is a terrible crime, especially to refuse the strength of one of the Sannin. It's almost like he was ungrateful for the gift I showed him. The grass snake coiled around his arm, sliding around the appendage in order to keep the bandages on tightly. Well, let's move on. There's no use in dwelling over what could have been, after all. The white snake was coiled, and waiting to strike again. Chunin, Uzumaki Naruto and Nara Shikamaru. Junin, Inizuka Kiba, Hyuga Nichi, Akamichi Chauji. Congratulations. The Goddamn Hokage, Tsunade said, addressing most of the people in the room. Thanks to you, not only have Orochimaru's personal guard been dealt with, but you kept Sasuke Uchiha from being kidnapped by Itachi. The village owes you a debt it can't repay. All I can offer are standard mission rewards, and my own personal thanks. A mission is a mission. You don't owe us anything, Aba-chan. Naruto grinned cheekily, deftly ducking the book that she threw at him. Oh, come on, I was respectful. Mostly. Naruto, Shikamaru drawled, his ponytail waving as he shook his head. You never learn, do you? Nah. You're the smart one, Shika. I just hit stuff. And get hit by stuff, if those marks are any indication. The hell happened to you? Kiba said, edging closer. Did you cross some Ronin trying to practice his 1,000 cuts technique? I'd rather not talk about it. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Naruto's gaze shifted out the window, and the gathered people took that cue to let the matter drop. Jiraiya is dealing with Sasuke and the retrieved Oto Kanoichi. Tsunade said, her voice calm enough to disguise the rage she felt at the realization of what had happened to Naruto in his childhood. She and Jiraiya never should have left the boy alone in Konoha. Her sensei had meant well, but Hiruzen Sarutobi had held the position of Hokage before her. He was never going to be there, at any specific time, for one child in a village of thousands, even if most of them weren't shinobi clans. Hell, having a child around would have made either one of them 10 times more stable than they had been, but there was no point in thinking about the past. Dismissed, except for Naruto. The younger ninja and Kakashi left the room quickly. Why me? You and I are going to go see Jiraiya and that girl, Tayuya. Follow me. The hospital room was secluded, almost elusive, and for good reason. There was a 7-layered Jinjutsu shrouding the root, which was one of Naruto's weakest abilities. Once they were inside the room, however, the illusion dissipated and full consciousness returned to his mind. Are you healed? Tsunade asked the bedridden Redeed. Yeah. Tayuya kept her eyes closed. Thanks. It's not an issue, the blonde woman said. However, that does mean that you won't be able to stay in the hospital after tomorrow morning's discharge comes through. What are you going to do? That's my question. By all rights, I should be dead. To Orochimaru, I probably am dead. If I go back there, it'll just mean torture until I'm too fucking used to the pain to scream anymore. Kabuto is good at making people scream. And I'm expecting an interrogation session and a goddamn execution. That's what anyone else would do to an enemy they captured. Shit, it's what I would do to me. You swear a lot, you know that, Naruto observed. Shut it, piss for brains. It's a goddamn defense mechanism. Tayuya bit back. Hey, just because my hair is yellow. Yellow is piss, you Nimrod. The Redeed cut Naruto off as she insulted him. Tsunade laughed. Abe-chan? Naruto asked. She's just saying all the things I can't bring myself to, since I'm Hokage. I like her. The platinum blonde smirked. It took Tayuya very little time to piece the puzzle together. Tsunade. Sana no Tsunade, the Hokage. Yeah, she's. You disrespect her like that, piss brain. Fucking shit, you're dumber than I thought. Hey. Well, I have an idea now. Tsunade spoke up, in a tone Naruto knew as the I'm not going to like what she says' voice. As a show of good faith, I'm willing to let you live freely in the village. The only catch is that you have to live under the supervision of one of my shinobi. Naruto had a distinct fear of the words that he knew would follow. In the back of his mind, he could hear a dark laugh rattling amid sewage. Stupid fox, mocking him from a place he couldn't fight it. Naruto is unquestionably loyal, and if he tries anything perverted, then you have my full permission to act without discretion. No strings. That having been said, you won't be allowed to go anywhere without him shadowing you, and you'll have to follow him wherever he goes. That all aside, I'm enjoying the way you say how I feel. By all means, please continue. Abe-chan, please tell me I'm getting paid for this. Oh, hell no. The Hokage was laughing as she walked out of the room. You're serving your village. Is my gratitude not payment enough? The door closed, Naruto still looking at it with one eyebrow twitching. She seems nice. A whole lot fucking nicer than Orochimaru. He's that bad. Most of us serve him, or serve, out of fear. You don't last long in Odo, if you start thinking you're strong. Once you do, he starts using you for experiments, and I'm not gonna say another goddamn word about it, piss for brains. Can you call me anything else? Okay, ass face. I guess I really was asking for it, huh? I wasn't gonna let that door close on me. How come you haven't opened your eyes? It's hard to sleep, so I was just trying to rest. There's still a lot of phantom pain in my legs. Besides, they told me not to ask about the scars. I figure that's easier if I just don't look at you. Well, Hokage's order was that we'll be living together and you can't exactly do that blind. May as well get it over with. The look on her face, immediately, was one of horror and pity. Sasu put those 2 holes in your chest, huh? Tore through a lung. My chakra is strong enough that it can heal me in seconds, but it's not medical chakra. Every injury I receive comes with a reminder to do better next time, but look at me, I never seem to learn. Better to leave out the 9-tailed denizen inside of his seal-bearing gut, he reasoned. There was no reason to give that information out so freely. Not that it would change the fact that most of those scars were brought on by the aforementioned 9-tailed demon, though 1 or 2 were self-inflicted. You really do have piss for brains, huh? Says the one who had a forest dropped on her. Not my fault, that bitch from Suna took out the whole thing in one goddamn attack. That was bullshit. Nah, you were just outdone. Her younger brother is even stronger, though, be glad you didn't fight him. He would have made sure you were dead. The Chibi Jinchuriki. I heard he turned Kamimuro into a statue inside of his own little bone forest. Yeah, Gaara's strong. I kicked his ass a while back, though. Takes a demon to beat a demon, huh? How do you? Oh, please. Tayuya scoffed. First off, your seal was still active when I saw you, after you'd stopped fighting. Second, we all got briefed on potential fights that we might have to engage in. You were first on the list. Had that fucking status, Kyuubi Jinchuriki written in big bold red letters. Made the others want to take you out, made me want to let them kill themselves trying. That's fair. He couldn't refute the logic. Jinchuriki were known for being absurdly strong, though most of them had a certain niche where they were most powerful. The Ichibi was strongest in the desert, the Nibi was at a disadvantage in watery areas, and so on. The Kyuubi, however, was a jack of all trades in that regard. While it might lose to the other Biju in the terrain where they were strongest, the Kyuubi had no true weaknesses, and was never at a disadvantage. As the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, he was somewhat representative of the Kyuubi's strength, so it could be argued that anyone able to defeat him would be able to defeat any other Jinchuriki. It would probably make life annoying later down the road, but that future hadn't arrived yet, so there was no point in waiting around for it. You know my name, too? He asked her. Uzumaki Naruto. Those 2 words, his name, said without any malice in them. It didn't matter to her, apparently, that he was one special fucking snowflake, as she would probably say. That was the nicest thing that anybody who didn't have to endure his presence had said, even with all the insults she'd given him. He didn't have to think hard in order to know that was a pathetic thing to be happy over. I tell you what, Tayuya. I'll stay the night here, make sure that you actually manage to rest. No funny business, I promise, no matter how funny a guy I am. Whatever you say, piss brain. The following silence was peaceful, at least, and Tayuya was snoring within 20 minutes. Chapter 2. Living arrangement, Jiraiya's melancholy. This is where you live. She couldn't believe what she was looking at. You, as an active duty ninja with the biggest paycheck every time you complete a mission, live in the slums in a fucking what is this, a whorehouse. Poor manners. If you believe the owner, not that I trust a word she says beyond your rent is due next week, then this is what you'd refer to as a gentleman's club. Gentle, my ass. I know the kind of guys who show up to these places. Yeah, that's why she wanted a ninja living on the 3rd floor. First floor is the business floor, and her office. Second floor is living quarters for the girls whenever they need it. 3rd floor is my room. Lady who runs it didn't give a shit who I was. All she wanted to know was whether I could stop fights or get rid of the more unruly customers without damaging the building. It helped her decision that I offered to repair the building and pay the girls for lost wages out of pocket in the event that I ever did manage to put a whole or 12 in there. Really? Piss brain. That's really fucking nice of you. Who the fuck are you, a saint? No? He said. I'm just an orphan who knows a little too well what it's like to not know where you'll be able to sleep tomorrow night, or where your food will come from. Most of those scars you saw weren't done to me by ninja. With that, they were at the door, and Naruto swung it open. It was before business hours, but the women inside were setting up for later tonight. That all changed when they saw him, however. Naru-chan. One particularly buxom woman nearly squealed, burying him in her cleavage and spinning him. No fair, Chichi, you'll kill him before the rest of us can say hi. The blonde, who was turning blue in the face from lack of oxygen, managed to extricate himself. Hey, did I tell you? Mission success. He exclaimed with pride. I managed to drag that stupid kid's ass right back to the village. Naruto, aren't you a self-proclaimed stupid kid too? One of the other women asked him, laughing. Yeah, but I'm older, so he's dumber by virtue of age. Tayuya watched the scene unfold, comically, as Naruto seemed to put on a show that was completely different from the mostly serious persona she'd seen so far. Is the girl, Naruto? One of them said, pointing back towards Tayuya. She's gonna be living with me, he said, clearly not having thought through the consequences. Did you hear that, girls? An older woman walked out from the back of the building, holding an old leather-bound book in one hand. This was the business's owner. Our little fish cake has a girlfriend, time to give up on making him yours. She's not. I am not. Their dual proclamation was simultaneous, coming amid soft gasps of excitement and mock disappointment. Not helping your case, little fish, the owner said. If you didn't want her to be seen, you should have just gone to the top floor. I know you can jump that high, I've seen you do it. Yeah, that's because there's something you need to know. Technically, the fact that she's staying with me is a really big secret, so if anyone comes looking for her, or someone who looks like her, then she's not here, okay? I'm sorry for the trouble. Don't worry, Naru-chan. Chichiaka-san will take care of your secret. The other brothel workers agreed after her. He smiled politely. Thanks. Now, Tayuya-chan, come with me. He grabbed her hand and pulled, the Redeeds stumbling as she followed along. Goddamn, piss for brains, my legs just healed. Do you want me back in the hospital again? The women all watched with smiles on their faces. They knew it would do the boy a world of good to keep more company, even if the only company to be found looked like she was the one person on earth who was louder than him. Think he'll be the same way once she manages to worm her way into his pants. That's rude, Kasumi worried about how she might be getting special treatment now. Jealous, even. SHSH, shut up. Wow, this is pretty big. Yeah, it's a lot nicer than some other places I've lived. Kitchen's on the left, bathroom to the right, bedroom is straight back and has another bathroom attached. Why is there a door coming out of the wall, though? Oh, that. Don't worry. It's a foot thick, made of chakra-proof metal, and it only unlocks from the inside. It's so I can get in without always having to go up the stairs. Wall walking is pretty easy once you've gotten the hang of it. That was good enough, Tayuya told herself. No possibility of attack meant that safety was relatively assured. Not paying much attention to her surroundings, she began to walk toward the bedroom. You hungry? He offered, walking over to the fridge. When no response was given, he turned around and saw her go into his bedroom. Following after her, he watched her flop down on the bed. Why are you so goddamn nice? She asked, shocking him a little bit. You should hate this whole fucking village. You should hate me. Why the hell don't you? I'd rather see the good in people. He lay down next to her on the bed, looking up at his ceiling. Clean, not leaking, no moldy patches. It was nice. I've been hurt a lot, but I'm a reaction, not an action. The people who gave me these scars weren't thinking clearly, they were blinded by grief. I don't like what it did to me, but I forgave them a long time ago. When the orphanage kicked me out, the Sandaime tried to find reasoning to get the man in charge kicked out based on bias against me, but every orphanage in this village was overflowing after the Kyuubi attacked. They really just didn't have enough room. Besides, having that damn fox sealed off inside me has its advantages. I can miss 5 meals before I really get hungry, and my body temperature stays the same no matter what climate I'm in. It also overloads my chakra system to hell, so the only techniques I'm able to control well are the ones that expend enough chakra to exhaust most normal ninjas' reserves. Chakra's more dense, too, which makes all my attacks stronger. You're too good, piss brain. There's a line between being kind and letting other people take advantage of you. You're so far past that line, you loop back around just to shove it up your ass. Naruto did his best not to let the swearing bother him. So what do you want to do? I don't know, shithead. You're technically my prison guard, gilded as this jail may be. You're in charge. I'm no good at being in charge, though. Both my teachers say I'm too indecisive and hot-headed. That's bullshit, you can't be both of those. Just watch me for however long we're stuck like this, then. You'll get it. Fuck, I'm hungry. I've got some leftovers in the fridge. I was trying to ask if you wanted them before you came in here. Well, fuck, didn't hear you. That was nice of you, piss brain. Still, I wanted to see how you'd act when I did this. What? Lay down in a bed. He looked over to her. Yeah. We're gonna be sharing it, so I figured I should see how you'd react to me being in it. We're gonna do what now? It's your fucking room, you're not sleeping on a couch or the floor. I ain't willing to either, so you're just gonna have to suck it up, because we're either gonna be sharing it like this. Without warning, she rolled on top of him, hands on either side of his head and one of her legs between his. Or like this. Your choice. His hand moved up to her shoulder, and with a flick of his wrist she was facing up at the ceiling, laying beside him again. You're nuts, piss brain, you know that. Oh, you have no idea. He laughed. Give me a minute, I'll go heat up some food. Come out when you're ready. The meal was simple, just chicken and vegetables with rice. Still, for someone who was used to poorly flavored gruel or meals that had most of the nutrition boiled out of them, it was fantastic. A knock on the inside door alerted them, and Naruto stood. I'll get it, you keep eating. Naruto opened the door, and found Jiraiya. Hey, Iro-sennin. What's up? Not much. I see you have a friend. The older man sighed inwardly, knowing it would probably be a long road to the point where Naruto referred to him with any sort of respect. Yaba-chan's orders. I know, kid. Still, I'm here because I got permission from her to go on a training trip with you. Define, training trip you pervert. I'm not going on a tour of the elemental nations to spy on women's hot springs. As fantastic as that idea you've just given me may be, I mean it the way it sounds. I'll be training you while we're on the move, it'll keep the Akatsuki off your back, and as a bonus, we may be able to destroy some of Orochimaru's old bases on the way. Might even learn something or another from them. He said what now? Tayuya stood, a stern look on her face. I said we'll be ransacking Orochimaru's bases on the Jiraiya paused for a moment, his face lighting up in realization. I smell a loophole that Iro-sennin is about to leap through. You were one of his personal guards. He said, looking at Tayuya. You know where all of his bases are. When do we leave? She asked. I would say, right now, but that knucklehead, Jiraiya pointed to Naruto, would object. How about 3 days? How long will we be gone? Naruto was the one to ask the other most important question. 3 years, give or take. There's a lot you need to learn, and a lot that I may not be able to teach you very well. Hopefully, though, you'll be able to pony up and play in the big leagues, Kakashi. Tsunade and I won't be able to protect you forever, especially since you want to take the hat from her. And you. His focus shifted back to Tayuya. I see no reason to leave you out. Plus, I could see about finding a way to remove the seal that bastard put on you. Okay, piss for brains, I take it back. You're not too nice. This whole damn village is too nice, and you're just ahead of the pack. I don't know what to tell you. Naruto shot back. Blame my tragic backstory that lends itself toward making me a person that wants others to be happy. God, you're sappy. If I get killed because you made me go soft, I'm gonna come back to beat your shitty little ass to death with me. Well then, Tayuya and I guess I'll just have to protect you. His sing-song voice was mocking. You little shit. Jiraiya smiled, almost content enough to close his eyes. It was like a repetition of the past, with a young Minato and Kushina standing in front of him. Thinking of them, however, immediately soured the scene before him. It was a reminder of his failure to them. Their names, right next to each other on the memorial stone, were a permanent monument to all of his sins. I just wanted to deliver the news. He said. I'll meet you by the East Gate, in 3 days, at noon. I'll let Tsunade know you'll be coming with us, Tayuya. He turned and walked out, closing the door behind him. The East Gate, that brought back memories for Naruto. The battle against Scar, transformed in a full possession mode by the Ichibi. Defeating it had earned him his promotion to Chunin. Hell, anybody who could beat a Biju was worthy of Jonin status, as far as threat level was concerned, but he wasn't going to complain. If nobody knew how dangerous he was, then nobody would ever expect to die at his hands. And, as it turned out, people were pretty good at dying when he was the one killing them. Gato had found that out firsthand. The despotic merchant arrived just a few minutes early, just close enough that Naruto's heightened senses, along with Kakashi and Zabuza's war-heightened ones, had been able to pick him out, and the army of mercenaries he'd brought with him had been a hard detail to miss. That was the day that gave the Kyuubi a level of respect for Naruto, when his battle against the Kurigakure Nukenin was abandoned at the revelation of Gato's betrayal. Change of plans, Kakashi had said. They're on our side now. Haku, the mission is dead. Time to cut our losses, and our employer. Naruto hadn't needed to be told twice, 3 steps of his demon miasma-enhanced chakra bounding him forward, so that he could crash headlong into the mercenaries' front ranks. That had been a good day. Hey, piss for brains. Tayuya's voice brought him back to the present. Did something feel off about him, right at the end? Sort of. He changes moods a lot when I'm around. Couldn't tell you why, though. It seemed like he got really sad, all of a sudden. Your guess is as fucking good as mine. Leaving the mystery behind, they went back to their meal. Once the sun had set, after all had been said and done, Jiraiya had come to visit Tsunade in her office, while nobody could possibly interrupt their conversation. I hate you. You and your goddamn loopholes. You know that, you perverted toad. Think about it, though. This gets Naruto out and about, so that he can actually learn something about the world beyond the missions, when you allow him outside these walls on your orders, and it keeps Tayuya from potentially falling into Danzo's hands. Because the possibility of Orochimaru retaking her is the lesser of 2 evils. Tsunade nearly shrieked, a titanium ball being crushed under her hand. Yes, actually. The look he gave her said that the question wasn't up for discussion, regardless of who technically outranked whom. Tsunade knew that if the chips were down, and it really came to blows, Jiraiya could wipe the floor with her. Years of dodging her attacks in their childhood training had made him fast. Still, disgruntled as she was, she allowed herself to move on. My informant told me that the Akatsuki won't start to move for another 3 years. That gives me a limited window of time to really teach him whether it's about Fuinjutsu, his contract with the Toads, mastering the Biju inside of him, or even just general jutsu and physical training. He needs to learn it, and I'm the only one who can teach him. His arms crossed in front of his chest, the grim countenance he'd taken on was the same as Tsunade remembered it. This was the Jiraiya who wouldn't take no for an answer. This was the Jiraiya who had appeared on missions during the Second War, who had broken his back to stop a boulder from crushing her head, who had made himself bait so that she and Orochimaru could run for help, and then broke hell loose because he didn't have to worry about protecting his weaker, faster, smarter comrades. If she tried to forbid him from doing this, he would disregard her authority and go behind her back. Jiraiya had stopped being afraid a long time ago. He didn't fear death, and he was no longer scared of losing anyone else close to him. Not since Minato and Kushina died, followed by Orochimaru's discovery and defection. He could easily go rogue, and she doubted that anyone in Konoha would be able to stop him or bring him back in if he did. There wasn't a doubt in her mind that he would go whether she allowed it or not. Tsunade. There was silence for a minute, and he tensed reflexively when she reached for a drawer at her desk, but he relaxed when it turned out to be nothing more than a large bottle of sake and her own personal drinking cup. It'd hurt you as much as it hurt me, watching them. You didn't spend time with Minato and Kushina. Not like I did. I was still around them, though. Even Orochimaru admitted that they were perfect for one another, and everybody knew it. They were 22, Tsunade. They had been married for 3 years, they were about to start raising a family, and one night ripped them both from the face of the earth. No matter what, I will not let that happen to their son. They named me his godfather, and it's about goddamn time I start acting like one. He's coming with me, and so is the girl. That's the end of the discussion, and I don't give a damn if you put a page out for me in the bingo book. In 3 days, I'm taking those kids out of this village of bad memories and shattered dreams. Danzo started in a court because he wanted to protect Konoha, whether or not people knew. Orochimaru began his experiments because he wanted the tragedies that happened in the Second and Third Wars, and the Kyuubi attack, to be relegated to history. Itachi worked his way through the ranks of our shinobi because he wanted to tie his clan more closely to the village and stop a revolt before it began. He took a deep breath before continuing. Naruto wants to become Hokage so that he can protect the people who have shunned him, spit on him, cursed his name and attacked him, since he was old enough to act for himself. I'm not going to let his good intentions become another failure, another horror story, another bitter stain in the pages of Konoha's history. Chapter 3. Please, define the word betrayal. This isn't as awkward as it would have been if Hiro-Sennin hadn't stopped by yesterday, Naruto observed. I wonder how that talk with Aba-chan went. I still can't fucking believe you live in the slums. Shouldn't you have, I don't know, a real apartment? Tayuya kept an even pace with him as they walked. What can I say, Tayuya-chan? Once you've been a gutter rat, you never really leave that life behind. Only difference is, a gutter rat gets kicked around by the bigger kids. All the bullies who beat me up as a kid. I'm a whole lot stronger than they are, now. When the name of the game is, survive or die, you learn how to be able to live no matter what happens. I know all about that, and fucking stop adding Chan to my name, you asshole. Maybe when you stop calling me Piss for Brains. Not gonna fucking happen, Piss for Brains. Then it's not gonna happen, Tayuya-chan. Also, we're here. Raymond stand. Really? Oh, just watch me. He looked at her with the sort of smugness that only someone with full control over his own situation could muster. One Isama. Tuchi Jiji. One Uzumaki-size combo platter. Those words coming out of your mouth make sense individually. What kind of ramen stand serves a platter? Like, of all gimmicks. The kind of ramen stand that serves Naruto, even on the occasions when he wasn't able to pay. A tall, brown-haired girl who Tayuya assumed to be walked out and spoke. My father doesn't run a charity here, but he's always offered a free meal a day in the event that money is an issue. Besides, as often and as much as Naruto eats here, we could probably shut down and have enough money to last us another 10 or 12 years. Glad to see you and your lady friend are getting along so well. A newcomer, Kakashi, said to announce his arrival. And it's good to hear that he's supported you all that well, Tsuchi-san, Chan. Nowhere else I'd rather go. Naruto laughed. Store-bought stuff is okay on missions, when I can't come in, but if I can get the best in the world, then I won't settle for less. Chan, I'll have pork and vegetables, if that's alright. You always fumble over it, Kakashi-san, like you don't get the same thing 3 times in a row, before moving down to the next item on the menu. Am I really that predictable? As predictable as the tardiness that Naruto always tells me about. Naruto? Kakashi exclaimed in mock horror. How dare you say such slanderous things to besmirch my name in the mind of this beautiful young woman? Yes, how dare I tell the truth? Shame on me. What will you get, Tayuya-chan? B sounds good. She would be lying if she said that she didn't feel uncomfortable around all the warmth that the 3 of them gave off, interacting with each other. The last time she'd known anything like that was so long ago, so deeply buried by memories of all that came after the laughter, that she didn't want to dig the feelings up. Was it all some joke that everybody was in on, except her? Was this hell, her punishment for dying in the forest against that pineapple-haired bastard, and that goddamn fan-wielding bitch from Sunagakur? Was she in Orochimaru's lab, waiting for another dose of painkillers, so that he could wake her up once he finished? Actually, she surmised, it would probably be worse to be on the White Snake's operating table. As the saying went, thank the gods for small graces, or some similar figure of speech. She could deal with this discomfort. Minutes later, she saw why they called it the Uzumaki size. 30 balls arranged in a spiral that seemed to be based off of the red circle on the backs of all Konoha-issued flak jackets. That's goddamn huge. Don't tell me you're gonna, she began, but was interrupted. Like I said, Tayuya-chan. Just watch me. After her own bowl of beef ramen had arrived, he began eating. To her shock, amazement, and mild horror, the soup seemed to fly into his mouth of its own volition. Bowls larger than his head, taking up almost all of the counter, and within 15 minutes he had finished just as many bowls. Tayuya was eating slowly, partially in wonder and partially, because his continued effort made her lose a little more of her hunger. Did the Kyuubi no Kitsune have a salt tooth that craved ramen noodles? Inside of the Shiki Fuin, the almighty Kurama had willed a tube into existence which poured ramen broth in a fountain to drink from. This was a perfectly reasonable thing to do, it told itself. Anybody else would have done exactly the same thing, it told itself. By all the dead gods of the lands that sunk beneath the waves, it loved ramen, it told itself. As much as it loved freedom. Maybe not, it told itself, but when it could only have one of those 2 choices at a time, well, it was easier to just enjoy the ramen while it could. The longer it cooperated with the Uzumaki boy, the more ramen it could have. Chakra for ramen. That boy was a fool, its chakra was almost limitless. There was no reason not to offer up some fraction of its power for the intoxicating taste of ramen. It told itself. You're fucking insane. You have to be. No normal person could do that, let alone think it was a good idea to do that. So, the idea was to make you a little more comfortable around me and the village. There's a saying, something about those who share a meal together will be more familiar or something like that. That sounds like something you came up with on your own. No, I really didn't. Besides, it worked, right? Maybe, if by more familiar, you mean that I am never, ever paying for you to eat somewhere. Goddamn. For her, the familiarity he talked about had come when she'd woken with him beside her. In Itagakur, in order to conserve building materials for each of Orochimaru's bases, ninjas hot bunked and slept with one's feet level to the other's head. She couldn't count the number of times when she'd woken up to her bunkmate transforming into the second stage of their cursed seal, and been forced to kill them, before they had gotten it into their head to kill her. Orochimaru hadn't been the kind of leader to inspire complacence or comfort in his ranks. That hit the spot. Thanks, One-sama. You're welcome, Naruto-kun. You know you're always welcome here. I know. His smile was so warm, it almost put Tayuya on edge. Reflexes died hard, and training as a kunoichi dictated that whenever a man smiled like that, no, she decided. She'd read his dossier before leaving Itagakur. If the way he acted was all a front that hid a beastly killer inside, then he played that game better than anyone else on Earth. No two ways about it. To that end, it was just easier to believe that he was being genuine at every second. Hell, even though she didn't want to die, she knew that she deserved it in the eyes of those who knew about her previous affiliation. They had to think like that, didn't they? Konoha's inner ruthlessness and outer sweetness were something of a known distinction. Iwa was predictable, obedience to the Tsuchikage and the chain of command was paramount above all else. Suna was a nation of through and through mercenaries who weren't above switching sides, if the reward turned out to be better, or abandoning a mission, if all hope of completion was lost. The idea of dying, for the sake of a mission, didn't appeal to the desert dwellers. Kamagakure was the most hawkish and aggressive, and while Konoha's many great names gave it strength, Kumo was arguably the strongest of the 5 great nations. Kiri was something of an enigma, with a civil war raging wild between the tyrannical Yonde Mizukage and the people who couldn't stand living under his regime any longer. It didn't seem like it would be stopping anytime soon, either. Konoha, on the other hand, while they had come out the winner in all 3 of the great wars, the village was reportedly rank with corruption. Only in Konoha could 2 comrades be sent on opposing missions, sometimes even forced to fight one another to the death. Only Konoha was rumored to have a second, hidden ambicore that, on paper, didn't exist. Shimura Danzo was as shady as they came, and prior to losing an arm in the Second War, he had been one of Konoha's most feared assassins as the Yumi no Shinobi. Only Konoha raised such a large populace on the ideas of peace and love and prosperity, that the will of fire would carry them through to a brighter day, only to sentence innocents to death through acts of aggression or willing negligence. And yet, right next to her, a boy whose hair outshone the sun was proving to her that maybe Konoha wasn't as terrible as the rumors and information she gathered over the years. Or, maybe, he was the one spark of light left in a village rotting from the inside out. "You'll be gone for 3 years?" Sakura questioned, her mouth making a small circle of worry and wonder. "Yeah, I know it's really sudden. Still, you never know, we might come back to visit." Team 7 was gathered at their original training ground, all together, for what would possibly be the last time in the next 3 years. "You're lucky, you moron. Getting to train with one of the Sannin, and you treat it so casually. Hey, you dumb bastard, we were the same way about Kakashi-sensei before we knew how strong he was." Sasuke paused, remembering that information. "God, remember how you introduced yourself. How much more emo could you have now it was Naruto's turn to stop?" "Wait, no. You did get more emo. Like, you graduated from emo to goth, minus the face paint and the eyeliner and stuff. Sakura, you should help him with that stuff. Naruto, I swear to fucking God I will beat the shit out of you. You don't have much time left to try, asshole." Tayuya, once again the outsider in Naruto's personal life, hung back several feet. She knew that this wasn't her place. These were not her people. "Stop it, you two." Kakashi's words were in order, but his tone said that he wouldn't stop them unless it came to a death match. Given the explosion she'd heard before Jiraiya had found her broken body in the forest, Tayuya guessed that they had very nearly come to that point at least once before. She really didn't want to be there when a Jinchuriki, and someone who Orochimaru had believed to be strong enough to become his next host body, fought for keeps. "Anyway, Naruto, we're all here because we wanted to give you two some gifts before you left," Sakura announced. "Both of us?" Tayuya questioned. "Well, I don't know about them, but I got something for you. Sasuke-kan told me that you use a flute to cast Jinjutsu, but it broke when you got crushed. So I bought you a new one. It was gold, though that was just the outer polish and the inner coating. Still, after playing a couple of practice scales and adjusting the mouthpiece until it was in tune, it was a much better flute than the one she'd had previously. Sakura had been far too generous with this. I don't deserve this, I can't accept it. Why would you be so nice to me? I thought about that too. You're technically still my enemy, but I believe in Naruto. He's a good judge of character, and he wouldn't stick around you if he didn't think you were a decent person who wouldn't betray us whether or not the Hokage ordered it." Not that Sakura would ever mention that Naruto had been the one to give her most of the money for it. "Insubordinate jackass," she said, looking to the blonde. "I'll start respecting her when she starts acting her age. She thinks that Jinjutsu will convince everybody that she still has the looks of a woman in her mid-20s. Yeah, not even I'm that dumb. You mean to tell me, at 50, that she's never gotten any gray hairs or started? I'm gonna stop you right there," Kakashi said, interrupting his oldest student, before he said words that Tsunade would likely have heard from the other side of the world. "Sasuke, you're next. I know you don't have much of a skill repertoire, so I brought a scroll on how to perform the Gakyaku no Jutsu. It's a signature Uchiha technique, and whether or not you have an affinity for Kaiten techniques, we all know you have more chakra than all of us combined. Once you get the speed of hand signing it down, you could probably blow the top off of a mountain with it." The raven-haired boy handed the scroll over, and Naruto pocketed it for later. "Ah, that makes it my turn, doesn't it?" Kakashi said, scratching the back of his head. "Sasuke, Sakura, you can go home. Technically, my present isn't something that genin are allowed to see or hear. Though the pair looked disheartened, and Sasuke muttered something about favoritism toward the eldest, they were both gone with a fair amount of speed. What's so important that they couldn't know? Naruto asked. Technically, even though it directly concerns you, I could get executed for telling you. I don't know who's watching, so come here and I'll whisper. Naruto walked forward, and Kakashi leaned down to speak into the younger shinobi's ear. You remember how I told you that the names of my best friends are on that stone? Naruto gulped. Yeah, I remember. That had been a sobering revelation. Their names, Naharin and Uchiha Bito, are the last on the list of casualties for the Third Great War. After that, the list of deaths from the Kyuubi attack begins. Your parents' names are right next to one another, in that section. There's only one Uzumaki. Kakashi held loyalty to the village, not to the chain of command. He held loyalty to the bonds he'd made with the people he'd fought beside, not whoever his superior officers were supposed to be. He had been the Sandaime Hokage's right-hand man, and been a popular choice for Godaime Hokage, which he might have accepted, if not for the fact that he was the Jounin sensei of Team 7. He had served in Danzo's operations, though the seal on his tongue had long ago been erased. He had been a member of Anbu Team Rho, nicknamed the Death Squad, for his historically high kill count. He held loyalty for his father's ideals, loyalty to the teammates he'd let down, and been to the funerals of. Most of all, though, he was loyal to the spirit, the memory, and the legacy of his mentor. He has shadowed the man's wife all through her pregnancy, had been present at Naruto's birth. Whoever the masked man was, he was the one responsible for the deaths of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. If he was still alive, Kakashi had sworn, then he would kill that man himself. He had no intention of teaching anybody but Naruto, or whatever team he was placed on. The son of his sensei deserved nothing less. He hadn't been able to prevent Minato and Kushina's deaths, but he could do something to keep Naruto safe. Kakashi was stronger now than he'd been 15 years ago, and if Naruto was half the man that his father was, then it was a fair bet that his dreams of becoming Hokage might come to fruition, not long after his return from this training trip. Itachi had confided in him, as a former teammate and as a man who held the same values, before fleeing the village. The Uchiha Saiyan had known that the infamous Senjutsu no Maijin, the master of 1,000 arts, would possibly be the only other man in Konoha to understand. To both of the Sharingan wielders, one person had been worth more than their whole village. The purple-haired Anbu with the Nico mask was watching from the south, and she knew that he knew that she knew what he'd said. He also knew that she wouldn't report it to Tsunade, out of her own loyalty to him. The Slug Princess might have been the Hokage, with the rank-and-file ninja owing fealty to her and the civilians accepting her status, but there were many factions of power in the shadows of Konohagakure's street Stanzo. All the unquestioned obedience of his own 100-strong forces, and the true lead of Konoha's forces saw Tsunade as little more than a bench warmer for someone who hadn't been gone from the village for over 2 decades. They would pay her lip service, but their ties had been to the Sandaime's regime and those who had stayed loyal to it. The Uchiha had planned a revolt out of dissatisfaction with their status in the village. Tsunade's reign was proving unpopular with most of the shinobi who had been in the Corps as recently as the Uchiha massacre. If she wasn't careful, then she would face her own revolution, but she didn't have her own Itachi to call such a takeover. You should ask Jiraiya about them, when you get a chance. He taught your father, and your father taught me. Whatever you do, though, when he asks you how you know, just tell him that you know married couples have their names put next to each other. That would still be a dead giveaway, and potentially paint a target on his own back, but Kakashi knew Jiraiya. They both felt the same way about Naruto. They would both do whatever it took to keep the son of the Yondaime Hokage alive. Nothing else mattered. As Kakashi walked away, fading into a shunshin that made him vanish, he asked himself whether it might be worth putting his private war with Danzo on hold. Naruto took slow, heavy steps toward the stone in front of him, finding the Rin and Obito that his sensei had told him about. He continued scanning the plate for names of the fallen, until he found it. Double-checking the rest of the list, he saw that Kakashi had been right. There was only one Uzumaki on the list. Even on the list of names from the First, Second, and Third Great Wars, there were no other members of the Uzumaki family. Uzumaki Kushina, the engraving read. Uzumaki Kushina, his mother. He looked at the name underneath. Saratobi Bawako. That wasn't right, obviously. She had been the wife of the Sandaime. He remembered asking about her when he was younger. Seeing that the name underneath was obviously not right, he looked above it and stopped breathing. His eyes were wide as he sank to his knees in front of the memorial, but he couldn't look away from the name he saw. Namikaze Minato. The cold metal seemed to speak to him, and he finally turned away, only to look at the Hokage monument, where every past leader of Konoha had their face carved into the mountainside. His eyes went red in a split second, fang teeth bared in a snarl. The world had a lot of explaining to do. But guys, hope you enjoy, like and subscribe.